Hey, Scotty.
How are you?
Doing great. Excited for our next guest.
Me too, me too. And I'm ready to talk about safety. Not the topic that you sit down and go, okay, I want to listen to a podcast on safety today. But this was one of the most fun conversations I've had in a long time because I got to talk to these two women who are incredibly fun and funny. They are engineers. They recognize that the topic of safety often needs a little poking to make it fun, a little inspiration, and it's so easy to get caught up in the statistics. 40,000 people die in car accidents every year. A lot of those deaths are children. They shared some statistics, not on our podcast, we've got a few, but they had shared some statistics earlier, something like 45% of car accidents. I do think they did share this on the podcast. 45% of car deaths in car accidents are due to people not wearing a seatbelt, which is shocking to me.
That's scary.
Um, but there's more.
Hmm.
Other reasons: distracted driving, drunken driving, or impaired driving. So a lot of reasons why people have car accidents, but still, 40,000 accidents a year is not acceptable. And their mission is to help reduce this, but to bring more awareness in general to driving safety, automotive safety, kids and car seat safety. And these two women have this incredible history. They're both engineers. They've both worked in crash investigations. They've both been the person to go to the hospital after a fatal crash and kind of do the post-mortem to find out how these victims died and what killed them, and to be able to try to prevent this in future crashes. So very much a lot of the safety that we have on the road right now is thanks to these very two women who did a lot of research and spent a lot of their careers trying to make our cars safer for everyone, even though Jessica, who works for the Institute Insurance of High, or Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, and Jennifer Morrison, who works for Mazda, but throughout their careers, they have always been focused on safety. So, heavy topic, but it's a fun conversation. So, shall we roll?
Yep, let's roll.
Okay, let's go to the video. I love talking about safety. I love talking about safety with women who are making our cars safer, and talking about the why we love this topic. And I'm gonna confess, it's probably not the first thing people run up to you and ask you about at a cocktail party, right?
Right.
Let's talk about safety. But we're gonna talk about safety today with Jennifer from Mazda and Jessica from the IIHS. These two ladies are responsible for so many of the safety innovations in our cars, on our roads today, everything from new technology to crash testing that makes our cars safer and lets us know which ones are safest and which ones are not. And they're both engineers. So welcome, ladies, to What Drives Her. Thanks for sharing some time with us.
We'll talk about this at cocktail parties too. We bring it up in all conversations.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
So you're both engineers. Jessica, start. What drew you to engineering? Why did you want to be an engineer?
I always loved math and science from the time I was a kid. I did want to be a doctor for a long time. I wanted to be a medical doctor. I spent some time shadowing a surgeon when I was in high school and almost passed out, and realized that maybe I should go a more technical route. But I always loved the human body, and I thought, combining the human body with engineering would be a great path for me, and that's exactly what I did.
And Jennifer, what drew you to engineering?
Cars, mobility, freedom. So I came at it from always loving cars. I grew up in the Midwest, and where I was living, you had to get behind the wheel of a car to get anywhere, and I was really determined to spread my wings, get to high school independently. I've always been fiercely independent, and so the freedom that cars brought me, I've just been in love with cars since I can remember.
And what drew you to safety?
Interesting. I always thought like I wanted, as an engineer, right, as somebody who I feel like was born as an engineer, I wanted to solve problems. I didn't want to just design a product or just sell something. I wanted to fix things. I think that engineers inherently want to fix things, make things better. And once you really start learning about how many people die in car crashes, and I really got into that more in my career as I watched car crashes after they happened as an NTSB investigator. So that was a huge part of my career too.
Oh, wow.
But even before that, I wanted to fix the problems, and I wanted to do a career that had an impact and that was interesting and fun. I'm definitely not the person just to sit behind a laptop.
And so you're both moms. How did becoming a mother change your perspective on safety?
Well, I mean, in many ways, it made me a little bit more worried, like I have more to protect. But it really just kind of makes it all make sense. Like, why are we doing this? It really amplifies the why, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, that it really makes it more personal, that this journey we're on to improve safety for everyone, it makes it more personal when we have our own families to protect.
As a mom, it changed how I drive.
Yes.
All of a sudden, before I was a mom, I was like, get out of my way.
Yeah.
And then I had children, and I was like, you're driving too fast. I'm getting in the right lane, so I'm not near you.
Right.
Let's see fast drivers on the road.
Right.
And Jessica, you presented some interesting statistics today about crashes that are fatal. What are the primary causes of fatal crashes?
Yeah, so our fatality numbers are way too high. We have almost 40,000 fatalities every year here in the United States, and it's unacceptable. Our fatality rate is almost 2.5 times that of the next 28 high-income countries. It's really out of line with what the rest of the world is how their traffic safety is going. And so here in the United States, cars are safer than they've ever been, but we continue to see this rise in fatalities, and a big part of the problem is risky driving behavior. So we think about them as the big four. We think about alcohol impairment, which is almost 30% of fatal crashes involve some sort of alcohol.
Wow.
Speeding, belt use, people not buckling up.
45% of fatal crashes involve some people who were not using their safety belts. That's stunning.
Right.
That is stunning.
And when we look at belt use in the driving population, we're over 90% belt use in this country, which is good. It's not perfect, but it's good. Mm-hmm. But the number of almost half of our fatalities are unbelted, and so it's a good reminder about how much the belt protects you, because it's that small percentage that are unbuckled that are resulting in the fatalities in our crashes.
And then I think it was 13% distracted driving. So 13% of people who die in a fatal crash is because they're on their phones or they're distracted.
And distraction is really difficult to even identify in a crash. So the numbers we have for distraction are a conservative estimate.
So it could be actually a higher number.
Yeah, and it's really difficult to get the data on how much people are distracted, but we know it's a problem, and we know it's a bigger problem than the numbers suggest.
So in that context, let's talk about the nanny features, to use a term that nobody really likes to hear, but it does actually kind of nudge you and tell you, put your napkin in your lap, wash your hands before you come to the table, right? Those kinds of things. Talk about these features, these driver assistance features that help us to reduce distraction, to remind us to put on our seatbelt. Talk about these features.
Yeah, and it's great. Some of the features we have, the term in the industry that's being used a lot right now is advanced driver assistance systems, or ADAS. It's kind of a hard word to say, and maybe not everyone knows what it means, but it really breaks down to a couple of really important things. I mean, we can have automatic emergency braking. A lot of people have experienced that. It's probably the most popular technology. It's also the one that's been proven to be the most effective, right? So that's when your vehicle, just through radar and through cameras, can sense that there's another vehicle in front of you. It's moving slower or maybe even stopped, and it can automatically brake your vehicle if you don't. That's been proven to reduce about half of all rear impacts. It's great, and it's between IIHS and NHTSA and the auto industry, we all agreed about a decade ago that this is so great that we're going to make it standard equipment voluntarily in most of our vehicles. And we've achieved that. I think in 2022, most vehicles have already had it, but now we're like, we want to move even forward, even more forward, and have IIHS just put together a new crash avoidance test procedure to make us perform even better.
Yes.
Those systems, like they're good now, and they were good when we committed to them, but so much changes. Every year there's new software, there's new cameras, there's new sensing technology. So yeah, they can be kind of like, nanny systems that are watching around you, but it's because they got your back, right? We're trying to make these drivers support systems. And there's so many others. It's not just AEB, lane departure warning. Sometimes we refer to that as the turn signal training tool, right? So when people complain about their lane departure warning, it might be because they failed to turn on their turn signal. Because if you cross, it's simple. It's a camera-based system that is looking at lane lines. If you cross that lane line without signaling, it's going to give you a little nudge, right? So it really,
and a beep.
And a beep. Yep. And some of it can even vibrate your seat or your steering wheel. A lot of those things can be customized. Blind spot monitoring systems, driver monitoring systems. Cars are getting more and more advanced. It's not because we want to criticize everyone's driving. They're really just there to support the driver.
And you talk about lane departure assist and pre-crash assistance, crash avoidance. And then we were talking about distracted driving. In my mind, every time I see somebody kind of veering over, I think, you've turned that thing off. And shame on you, because they're on their phone, and then they're veering over into my lane. And how do we get people to accept these features and understand they have your back and that they're there to help you, not annoy you? And if you're really driving right, they're not going to annoy you. But talk about that. How do we get consumers to really lean into this technology?
Right. Well, I think a really important thing is to make the technology, them feel like the technology is working for them, is helping them, is supporting them in the decisions that they already want to make. Distracted driving is a great example. We know we're addicted to our phones. We know it. So many people are on their phones when they're driving. And, something like a lane departure prevention system is there to help keep you in your lane, help keep you safe in those momentary glances away from the roadway. Now, I'm not condoning having those glances. We want to avoid the distraction altogether. But that type of technology can help support and make your drive safer. And ultimately, that's the goal.
I think it's important to remember that they tell you this, and if you ever take a driving class, or have you ever taken a performance driving class?
I have, yeah.
Have you ever taken a performance?
I have not.
Okay.
You need to take one.
They're fun.
They're
a lot of
super
fun,
but you learn so much. And the first thing they tell you is the car will go where your eyes go.
Right.
And so I notice all the time I'm like looking for an exit on the highway, and I look over and I realize my car is starting to drift over towards the right lane, the line on the road, and I think, oh, I've got to correct. And because it just happened, what these driving instructors always tell you, is that the car will go where your eyes go. Right. And so it's a distraction can be not just looking at your phone or the touch screen or whatever, but
it can be everything. I mean, it's kind of cool going back to automatic emergency braking. I've been in situations before where I've been also like, oh, look at the construction going on, and you're looking at it, and then something happens just like that. Yeah. Things in traffic and while you're driving, at the speeds we're going, they happen in milliseconds. So if the car in front of you brakes, now you're braking, and I've had that automatic emergency braking come on. So all these things are working in concert with each other, and you're, oh goodness, I'm so glad that saved me from having the fender bender, even if it was going to be at a low speed. That's embarrassing. It causes traffic. Everyone has to get out of their cars. It's really dangerous. So having the driver distraction kind of paired with the automatic emergency braking. Of course, we want people to put their phones away. It's so hard. I know we are so addicted to them, but cars now have these great systems with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You don't even have to plug your phone in. It can be wireless. Keep it zipped up in your bag, in the back of the car, preferably, where it is out of reach, because they are so addictive. We all love to look at our phones. Get it out of reach. You can still interact and voice commands, controls, change your podcast, change your station, even get messages and respond. I think there's a way to stay connected and do all of this while still reducing the distractions.
Keeping your hands on the wheel and the eyes on the road.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite piece of technology in new cars right now?
It's going to be a really standard one for Mazda and maybe a basic one to some people, but blind spot monitoring. I can't drive a car without it. If I get in a rental car that doesn't have blind spot monitoring, I am lost. I need to have those lights, and I can't believe that there's still a lot of vehicles, even new vehicles today, that don't have that as standard equipment. We know that it's proven safety benefit. We've looked at the real world data. We know that it prevents side swipes and vehicle roadway departures even. So because of that and Mazda's safety philosophy, it is standard on every car we sell, even the MX-5 Miata. So if we can package it into that little guy, we can put blind spot monitoring on anything. It's my favorite.
What's your favorite piece of technology in new cars?
I would say the entire suite of crash avoidance technologies, all of those kind of, invisible protection. If you're driving, normally and don't have any anomalies in your driving, you won't really know. A blind spot, you'll know where you're, whether you have vehicles in your blind spot. But that kind of extra safety net with the crash avoidance technologies gives me a lot of peace, especially as I do have kids. I have teens, they're learning how to drive. And so thinking about, that extra safety net for my upcoming teen drivers is really helpful, I think.
Right.
So you have 2 boys, and you work full time. You've always been a working mom. What do you want your sons to take away from your career?
Well, I want them to be safe drivers, for one, but also recognize that, you can have a career that is meaningful, that has impact, and is fun.
100%.
What do you want your boys to take away from your career?
I have a teen driver that he just turned 17. He learned how to drive on a manual. So I learned it's a manual transmission, Mazda 3, and then I have a 13-year-old. I want to see them. I want them to see me working hard and, like Jessica said, having fun. Like, I do not have a boring personality or a boring job, and it doesn't have to be this very strict set of, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have this exact career path. I don't think I ever necessarily always knew exactly where I was going to end up. I didn't know I was going to work for a Japanese car company. I was with the government for many years. I just kind of took a lot of leaps of faith and had fun doing so. I'd love them to just take that away, that you don't necessarily know exactly where you're going, but it's going to be somewhere great, and you got to have fun along the way.
Such important advice for our kids, or such important insight for, especially for other people who are thinking, oh, I'm at work all day, I feel guilty, right? And then what we don't think about is what our children do learn from us as we work and build these careers. So Mazda, I'm going to say these days, is sort of like that straight A student that is
we like to hear that,
so,
for sure.
So ambitious that they go to the professor and they say, or they go to the teacher and they go, this test is just not hard enough. You need to make it harder.
So that is kind of what it's like between us and IIHS. I mean, and when they're making the test harder for us, one of the great things is they're doing so transparently. So we've got a couple of years lead time, sometimes up to 4 years lead time of, hey, we're really interested in the rear seat, which is one of the tests that's, the crash test that's really compelling now, because it does keep our kids safer in the back. They started telling us they were interested in the rear seat, and we're like, you know what, we're interested in that too. We are also seeing that there are people still being injured back there, that maybe the belt or the seat geometry isn't exactly what it should be.
Right.
And so we can challenge ourselves, like the straight A student likes to do, and go, okay, well, what can we do? And in that case, it turned out to be advanced seatbelts, right? Seatbelts that aren't just webbing and clips. I think there's a lot of hidden technology in cars these days. Pre-tensioners, actual pyrotechnics that fire in the seatbelt that pull you into position, and then load limiters that let the chest out so there's not as many injuries. That was actually a really fun project to work on. You get to break stuff and do crash tests and watch the dynamics happen. So yeah, that's just been a ton of fun to strive for even better things. We're driven by the real world field data. It's not like we don't have a compass. We know what's happening in the field. We study the data. We're data driven. We're scientists by nature. So what's happening? How are we going to fix it? Like you said, how do we make this test better? How do I get an A+?
So what do you say to parents or caregivers who say, oh, my 3-year-old just cries and screams and does that like human torpedo thing when I try to put him in that rear-facing car seat, so I'm just going to turn it around.
So I say a lot of things are negotiable between a parent and a child. Safety is not negotiable. So safety, we have clear rules about what it means to be safe in a vehicle. You can negotiate bedtime, you can negotiate what you're eating, but safety is not negotiable.
And how long should a child remain in a rear-facing car seat?
They should remain rear-facing, ideally up until the height and weight limit of the seat, at least until age 2.
At least until age 2.
We'd all be better rear-facing.
Right.
Well, we
Even
would
us.
be. We would be.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, the thing
Could
is,
be.
it spreads the forces over the back of the child's body, and that's really important when you're young, our youngest passengers, because their heads are disproportionately large and their necks are not as well developed. And so in a crash, if they're forward facing, the head comes forward and the neck can't control it. And it can have devastating outcomes. So it's so important for the youngest kids. We always say that kids are not just small adults. They are actually developmentally different, and they have different developmental needs throughout their lifetime.
How does Mazda think about, or is there thinking about those rear-facing car seats and how we accommodate them as SUV makers, as
Right,
car
right.
makers, so that, is there a way we can make those children more comfortable and the parents a
Yeah.
little?
I think there is. I think it really is just giving the customers a lot of options. So in our CX-90, which is a 3-row SUV, we have the latch ability in the rear seat and also the 3rd row. So just having those options, being able to make your vehicle customizable. And then sometimes the car seats are also inherently different. Some of the car seat manufacturers now are using both the latch and the seat belt. Before it was either one or the other, but now there's some combination. Whatever the recommendations are from the child seat manufacturer, from the vehicle perspective, we want to be able to make it as best accommodations and options for the customer as possible for their family. Maybe they have 3 or 4 kids, how are they going to fit them all in there?
Yes.
Just make all those options available.
It is a little bit Tetris, but
It
it
can
does
be, right.
have to be safe. And I'm going to leave a link below to the crash test video. That's my favorite go-to, the difference between rear-facing and forward-facing with a toddler in the seat. Because I feel like when you watch that, you're right. I want them to be rear-facing until they're like 21, 22, something like that. It really is just so compelling
Right.
to see that difference. And I think it's the University of Ohio study that they did. And so thank you so much for being here and talking about safety. And thank you for making us all safer
Yes.
on the road.
Yes, thank you. Everyone should slow down, buckle up, and put their phones away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Turn on the music and sing.
Yes, perfect.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, ladies.
I love how much they talked about their kids and their families, and I don't know. Have you had resistance from your son about wearing a seatbelt and safe practices in the car?
Thankfully, no, because he actually likes his seat, but I think that's because of behaviors on our behalf, right? Always showing him like, hey, we're not moving the car until everyone has their seatbelt. Do you have your seatbelt? We do like a seatbelt check and, say, oh, I need help. Like, okay, cool. So we help him out with that. But I think it's important to do that, and make sure everyone is aware and always doing what they can to prevent anything from happening.
I think modeling that good behavior as a parent and as a driver is so important. Because when the kids see you, that statistic of how many people die in crashes because they're not belted is just stunning. I mean, that's almost 20,000 lives a year that are lost because somebody just refused to put on a seatbelt or
Right.
for whatever reason wasn't wearing one. And, maybe I'm a little guilty of like driving to the mailbox without a seatbelt on or, driving to the edge of the parking lot in the, at the grocery store as I'm buckling my seatbelt. I probably shouldn't admit that, but it's a bad idea. And because you might, well, I don't know, you probably won't forget because the car won't let you.
It just
But
will ding if you, yeah.
but when you've got little people in the car, it's even older kids, teenagers, and your young adults. It's so important to model that good behavior. And every now and then I get in the car and I have to tell somebody like, "Hey, dude, you gotta buckle your seatbelt," and they forget. Like they get in the car and they forget. I'm like, what are you thinking?
Right. Like, this isn't an Uber. This is my car. You must have a seatbelt.
Even in Uber, though, you gotta, you know, they say if you've ever ridden around in a taxi in New York City, honestly, the last thing you want to do is buckle your seatbelt because you don't know what you're touching. It's kind of
I
gross.
know. Different experience.
However, those cars, they brake really hard, and they're constantly like darting in and out of traffic, and you can get hurt in the back. Like you could just fly into the seat,
Oh, yeah.
the front of the seat back and jam your knees or wrench your neck or something. It's kind of crazy. And so that's absolutely the place where you should wear a seatbelt. And I will say in the back of an Uber, because I do not trust these other, you don't know who's driving.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So I appreciate their statistics and I really appreciate their conversation about their kids and modeling their careers for their kids and, you know, both being boy moms. It's, I think, even more impactful. I think boys take away a different message from their mom having a career than from their dad.
Yeah.
Like that's still ingrained in society. So I think that's pretty amazing too.
What struck you the most, Scotty, about the conversation?
Oh my gosh, the dynamic between the two of them, that they're friends, that they have fun. After I interviewed them, I saw them on social media and they like, it was Halloween, so they were dressed up in costume, like
Oh,
walking through an airport. They plan these road shows. They fly around and do things together and speak and go to conferences together. And they are both like just so much fun. And I love, it kind of gives me chills that these women are so focused on safety. They're so focused on automotive. They're so focused on everything that they're doing, their mission, and yet they're also having a blast. And that is like, it just lightens up the whole conversation and makes it so accessible. It's not a lecture, it's just lovely.
and that's how it should be, especially with cars. We got to make it fun.
It's gotta be fun. It's gotta be fun. That's right. So thank you for everyone for joining us. Thank you to my co-host Natalie Marola, also our producer. I'm Scotty Reese, your host, co-host. Thank you to our editor Steph Howard. Our music is by Envato. Be sure to subscribe to What Drives Her, the podcast from A Girl's Guide to Cars. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can also go to A Girl's Guide to Cars and click the podcast tab on our homepage, and you'll get all of our podcasts right there as well. There are links to our content below, so be sure to check out that and more resources on this conversation on safety. And we appreciate you being here, and